Hi, this is Denise Mathew, and today I'm going to make this, what I call a cherry blossom vine kind of necklace. Now, I've made this is a pendant I've made. This is about 3 inches long, and I've attached it to some chain and just made it into a necklace. The other option is to do the same concept, and this is where I was sort of experimenting with a lot of different beads before I actually made the other one. And I used some, just some top drilled, it's like a Briolette type of bead. You can also use, I use gemstones for the video, but as you notice, I use some bicone crystals. Now this one I just put on an ear wire, and you could just do a matching one and make earrings, or again you could just do the pendant. If you did a smaller version, you could even do that as a bracelet and just do a much smaller version and maybe just a bar version, less loops and so forth. There is a lot of versatility. You could go with bolder colors, softer colors, you could go with all crystals. It really is your choice. And I just want to let you guys know that today I'm working in the sunlight, and I actually was quite enjoying the sunlight, and I know that some people may not like it because it's a bit too bright, but I couldn't resist because it makes everything sparkle so nicely. So I do hope you will enjoy it, and let's get started. I'm just going to do a little curl on the end. I'm using my multi-level pliers here, and I'm just doing a little curl on the end. And what I'm going to do is I can go back and change that after I want. I'm just going to make a little space, probably about a ½ inch, and then I'm just going to just go right around with the wire. This is an 18 gauge. 18 gauge, 16 gauge, you can go right up to a 20 if you want. So that's what I have so far. And then I'm just going to go on the other side and then just do the exact same thing. Just another, sort of the opposite way. I'm going about a ½ inch to 3/4 inch between them. Now if you want to make a shorter pendant, you could do it much shorter than that. You don't have to go that long. And then I'm just going to do one more on the bottom side. I'm trying to keep my loops sort of consistent. And just right around with the wire again. If you want to cut a piece of wire instead of working off the spool, you can do that. I have a tendency to cut too short, so that's why I like to work off the spool. So that's what I would have. And then I'm just going to cut it back the wire now. Leaving a bit of a tail, and I'm just going to roll that in. Just a little bit of a curl, whatever I have left. And that will be sort of where I can put my jump ring, so that I can hang it as a pendant. Now if you prefer to make this as an earring, you could do that as well, because it would be easy enough to just hang an ear wire from that side, and then just make more of a fancy swirl on the end. So if you want, you can hammer this. If you don't, that's fine too. It will be, by the time you put all the wire and everything on it, it will be pretty stiff, so you don't have to worry too much. It doesn't matter. I'm just going to go back and adjust this curl a little bit more because I want it to be a little bit tighter, and that's what I have so far. I'm working with about 2 feet of a 28 gauge wire. You can go up to 26 or even a 24 if you want. It's just going to make it a little bit chunkier looking if you use a heavier wire. So just start on either end. It doesn't really make a difference. I'm just going to start on this end and just leave a little bit of a tail. Now, some people don't care as much, they'll just trim it back, but what I like to do is trim it, I like to wrap it in. So that means I'm going to wrap towards this end. So when I take my wire, I'm going to wrap it towards this way. So just take my pliers and just go towards, if you notice I'm taking the tail towards the loop on the end. You want to do that because you're going to continue to wire wrap towards the other end, and that's the way you want your wire to face. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm just going to wrap that tail in. Again, if you don't want to do that, if you just want to wrap it a few times to secure it. So I just tuck that in and then just squeeze my coils together. And I'm just going to do a couple more wraps just to start it, and that's just going to stabilize it. You can use a shorter length of wire than this if you want, and then you might have to just keep adding wire to it if you want. That's your choice, whatever works easiest for you. So I'm going to make this something like a cherry blossom. So I'm going to have some leaves in between. I have some peridot briolettes here. So I'm just going to put one on. And that's why it's nicer to work with the lighter gauge wire, because it will easily go through your beads. So now I have this on and just facing it so that the wire is going to continue this way. So it's like that. And you can space this as close or as far apart as you like. It's your choice. So I'm just going to do 2 wraps. And if you notice, I have it standing up straight. Now if I want, I could add another leaf here if I want. I'm going to actually add 3 together, just sort of like a grouping of leaves. The nice part about this is that you can be very creative in how you want to do it. You can add or remove whatever you want. It's your choice. You could go with all one color, you could go with crystals, you could go with gemstone beads, you could do whatever you prefer. It's really your choice. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go on the other side, so just like a leaf would be actually. So I'm just going to go on the other side and do the exact same thing. And that's what I would have. So just 1 or 2 wraps again. Push those together so that they're nice and tight. And that's what I have so far. And now I'm going to do the 1 more leaf. The 2 look nice already, but I'm going to do 3. I'm just going to actually just put that right there. When you put it on, you just want to make sure that it's facing, so the wire is going to face the correct way, so it's going to continue down that way. So this is what I have. And I'm just going on the same side as I just put the other leaf. And then just a couple wraps. Now if you wanted to, you can wrap right around, and I'll show you how to do that. You can just wrap right around the bottom end of your briolette just to give it a more finished look, and it will support it a little bit more. It's your choice. It's really how much wrapping you want to do. So I'm just wrapping around the bottom part of the briolette. So that would give it a little slightly different appearance. And then just continue to wrap. Now I'm going to start going down a little bit, and then when I come to the circle, I'm going to start wrapping into the circle. So just put my wire in, and if I need to push it down a little bit, I can do that to make sure that they're going to be where they're supposed to be. So just go right into the circle. And then just as close as you can, because you want to wrap as close to the circle because you don't want like sort of a hang of wire coming between. And then just wrap in a little bit, maybe 1 or 2 wraps again. I have 2 different sizes of tourmaline beads here, the pink tourmalines that I'm working with, but you can just go with 1 if you want. So I just have different shades, and I'm just going to pick whatever I want. So these are a 2mm and a 4mm. So now that I have 1 on, and I'm just going to, so what I want to do with that is I want to have it right on top of my circle. So, and then just kind of have it like this. So it's kind of standing up. And then once that's like that, just guide that wire right through the circle again. And then you would have that there, and then just maybe 1 or 2 more wraps. I mean, that's just going to secure it again. Right now I'm using the 2mm roundels. And now I'm just going to pick another one up. So I'm going to do the exact same thing, just put it right on top like that and stand it up. So that's what I have so far. And then just do the exact same thing. You're just going to go in and go right around the circle. You just got to be careful that your wire doesn't get bent, which it will. If it does, that's fine. Just take your wire straightening pliers or just use your fingers to straighten it if you want. So I'm going to do another 2 wraps there. And so I would have the 2 there, like that. And I'll just pick up 1 more. And that would be my 3rd. And I'm just going to do about 3 on each round. Now at circle you could do more if you want, but I'm just going to do 3. So there would be the next one, and then just wrap it in a few times. I want to stand it up. I'm just going to continue to wrap because I'm going to go down, wrap down the circle. So I'm just doing a couple tight wraps now. And everything is where it's supposed to be. Now if you want to spread these out a little bit, you could, just to give it a more of a flower look. And now just continue to wrap down. Alright, and when I get to this part, I'm just going to start to wrap down. And I'm just wrapping a few times, just getting myself down there. Because I wrapped all the way down, I don't have any big long hangs of wire in between, so it's very neat and tidy. Now if you wanted to wrap even a little bit further down, you could. That's no problem. It's really what you want to do. Now I'm just going to add a couple more leaves. I'm just probably going to do 2 this time. Exact same way. A couple rounds. Right around the Briolette, I'm going to wrap a few times just to show you again. So just right around the bottom part. You can just push that down. So it would be something like that. And then a few more wraps in between. And I'm going to do a few more wraps here just because I have a little bit more length here. And then I'm just going to go to the other side. Another leaf. Did a couple wraps to support it, and then start to wrap around it. Again, this is a personal choice. If you don't want to do that, you don't have to. It's your choice. And I'm just going to continue to wrap down. Just some tight coils. That's all I'm doing. I'm going to go to the next circle. And here we go again. So this is what we have so far. And now I'm just going to use a bit bigger of a tourmaline this time, just for the middle. You don't have to, again, it really is a personal choice. And if you notice I'm running low on wires, so I will have to replace it, and I'll show you how to do that. So I'm just going to, now I'm moving into the circle part. And a couple wraps in there. Just to make it seamless. And now just start adding my bigger tourmalines. I've run out of wire, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to trim back that little tiny bit of tail, and I'm going to tuck that, what I have left, in, and it's a great place to run out because now I can easily start to, I can add more wire. So I like to work with about 2 feet at a time. I find that actually is manageable. Some people might like to work with a smaller amount, but I find that actually works well for me, so it's really a choice, personal choice. Now all I'm going to do is do the exact same thing as when I started. I'm just going to start to wrap. Now I'm going to wrap the tail going this way because I want the other wire to go that way. So here's my tail, and I'm just going to wrap that in. And I'm just loosely wrapping it, so if you notice the coils are separated, but that's okay because I can always push them together later. So just wrap that all in totally. And then just squeeze the coils together and push it in, and then you have more wire to start to keep going with. And I'm just going to do a couple more coils, a couple more leaves. Now to finish it, you're just going to, you just wrap in like that, the rest of the wire, just to secure it, and then you can just trim back, and then tuck all the wires in, make sure everything's all nice. And then you can go back and make sure that everything is the way it's supposed to be, that the leaves are doing what they're supposed to do, and you can spread out your, if you want to spread out your rondelles or anything, you could do that as well. You can decide which side you want up or down. So there's a couple of ways you can finish this. One way is you could just add a ear wire, and then you would just close that up, just make another earring to go with it. So that would be one way, and that would be an earring that you could do. The other option is to use it as a pendant. I have a chain here. It's a pre-made chain, so what all I did was I went to the center of the chain and I cut it in the center. So then all I need to do now is to add a few jump rings. And just make sure that your jump rings are going to fit through your chain. And just add one end of the loop. You could add the loops right to the chain. You could just open these up and put them on the chain, but I find sometimes they're a little bit too thick to go through, so I just add jump rings and it's just easier. But if you prefer to do it that way, you could do that as well. And just one more jump ring on the other side. And then you would have your completed necklace. Now if you wanted to bend it a little bit so it's just more of a, you could just sort of bend it a little bit so it's just, it hangs a little bit differently. You could easily do that as well. So this concludes the tutorial. I hope you liked it. If you did, please like, share, subscribe, and comment. We'll see you next time. Thanks for coming. Bye for now.